The Infiniti QX80 is certainly a controversial truck. I mean, take a look at the comment section from our last video with this vehicle. But I also think it's one of the most unique SUVs you can buy here in the US today. And by the end of this video, we're gonna find out exactly what makes this vehicle so unique and why that's so important. We're gonna find out what makes the QX80 so unique today, but if you wanna know more, you can head over to TFLtruck.com and check out all the different articles that we've written on the QX80 over on our website. I think the first thing that makes the QX80 such a unique truck has to be its styling, because it really doesn't look like anything else you'll find on the road. Now, whether you hate it or whether you love it, I did want to point out some interesting things about the styling on the QX80. Number one, this is the limited trim, so it comes with these giant 22-inch black painted rims. Now, obviously, the QX80 is a pretty boxy looking truck, but it does have some interesting curves, and the most interesting curve has to be on the hood, because when you're sitting in the driver's seat looking out over the front of this vehicle, well, it looks unlike anything else you've experienced. It's kind of this weird bulbous shape, and I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. Take a look. Even the Infiniti badge itself is kind of unique. This QX80, like a lot of luxury SUVs these days, has a suite of driver enhancement features like adaptive cruise control, automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, things like that. Usually the radar equipment for those systems are located in the badge. At least that's the way that a lot of manufacturers do it. But not on the QX80. All that stuff is down here, below the grille, and so the Infiniti badge itself is just kind of a normal badge that you can touch. It's three-dimensional. It's not this weird glass panel that you see on a lot of new cars these days. One thing that makes it particularly distinct up here in the front has to be these headlights, because I think a lot of big SUVs like this one will use really large headlights to complete the front end look. But Infiniti have gone and given this one a lot thinner headlights up in the front, which really differentiates it from the rest of its competition. Even this vent on the fender is kind of an interesting story. It, first of all, looks a little bit like the headlight shape, but the other interesting thing is that there is an opening in there. It's just that it doesn't go to the engine bay, but rather this little like corner of the engine bay. You can stick your hand down through here and kind of see your fingers moving around in there, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. Here's another kind of unique thing that this Infiniti does. Well, it has these little puddle lights that are Infiniti branded, but unlike a lot of manufacturers who put the light in the bottom of the door, this QX80 puts the light right up there underneath the running board. The next thing that makes the QX80 such a unique truck has to be this 5.6 liter naturally aspirated V8 under the hood. There's a couple things that are interesting about it though. The first thing is that this is actually the same engine you get in the Nissan Titan pickup truck, but in that truck it makes 390 horsepower and 394 pound-feet of torque. Here in the QX80 it makes 400 horsepower and 413 pound-feet of torque, a slight increase over the Titan. Now the other cool thing is that Infiniti, unlike a lot of manufacturers, hasn't limited the revs when you're in park. So you can rev this thing all the way to redline pretty much whenever you want. And what's better yet is that it actually sounds pretty good too. You guys should also know that this engine, in combination with the 7-speed automatic transmission that sends power to all four wheels here in the QX80, can actually tow up to 8,500 pounds, which for an SUV of this size is actually pretty good. It's weird that I even have to say this, but one unique thing about the QX80 is that if you take a look right under here, you'll find an actual full-size spare tire. A lot of manufacturers now are getting rid of full-size spares because they add weight and they cost a little extra money. So if you can save weight, you can save fuel and save some dollars in production costs. But this Infiniti QX80 still has a full-size spare. The next thing that makes the QX80 so unique has to be the interior, because I mean, if you take a look around, you're guaranteed to find like 8 different luxury materials at any one time. You have black leather, black quilted leather, white perforated quilted leather, Alcantara on the seats, micro suede in the headliner, wood on the dashboard and in the center console. I mean, the amount of luxury materials that have gone into this interior are unlike almost anything else that I've sat in so far. It's just extravagant. While we're talking about the interior, I think we have to bring up the infotainment system and this dashboard, because I think these are two places where the QX80's interior really starts to show its age. I mean, this infotainment system is a fairly large display and it is a touch screen, but the resolution is not super high, and if I put it into reverse, you'll see that it does have a backup camera and a 360-degree top-down view, but the resolutions on these cameras are, well, frankly, not up to the quality that you can see in some of this vehicle's competition these days. Put it back in park, and of course you're greeted with this map. You can go to your audio source. It works fine, but it's not nearly as good as some of the competition out there today. As for this dashboard, well, the gauges themselves are actually fairly clean and easy to read. The funny part is this little tiny screen in the middle that shows off a lot of your trip information, like your average fuel economy, your mileage, stuff like that. The funny thing about it is that you can literally count the pixels on this screen. I mean, it's that low resolution and old school of a display, which for something from 2019 that costs $91,000, well, it's certainly unique, but maybe not in the best way. I've already explained how the QX80 has a really unique interior, but then I did some more digging and I found this little button right next to the heated seat switch. Now this button, when you press it, it folds the back seats. There's two buttons up here, one on each side, that will fold the second row seats for you. I've never seen another SUV that has buttons to fold the second row up in the center stack. So those little buttons in the center console aren't actually the only way that you can fold these second row seats. You can use this little handle right here and it folds up really easily, which reveals something else that's pretty unique about the QX80, being that that third row of seats is super easy to get in and out of. I mean, look how much space there is. I can just hop right up in here and boom, I'm in the third seat. Better yet, I actually have a fair amount of room back here. I can close this seat up, no problem. I have leg room, I have headroom. I could sit back here for a decent amount of time. Unfortunately, getting out of this third row is not so graceful of a process, as I will now tragically have to demonstrate. You kind of have to scoot on your butt maybe, or I don't know, just you have to figure it out somehow, but it's never pretty. Guys, if you want to see more of this QX80, Steven and I did an unfiltered real-world buddy review with this exact truck. You can click on the link right here to go check that video. We live in a world where manufacturers can try all sorts of different things to improve fuel economy. We have cylinder deactivation, turbocharging, 10-speed automatic transmissions, but the Infiniti QX80 does none of that. And as a result, well, the MPGs are not fantastic. The EPA says it will get 13 MPG in the city, 19 MPG on the highway for a combined rating of just 15 miles to the gallon because, well, it's a giant 5.6 liter naturally aspirated V8 under the hood. For reference, we've actually been doing a little bit better than what the EPA says we should be getting. We've been averaging about 16 miles to the gallon in our time with the QX80. When you're talking about fuel economy, you also have to take into account curb weight, and unfortunately for the QX80, that number is super high. This thing weighs just over 6,000 pounds, which is, it's a beast. It's pretty heavy. The last thing that I think makes the QX80 so unique has to be the fact that it's based on the Nissan Patrol. And what's interesting about the Nissan Patrol is that Nissan hasn't really updated the Patrol since 2010. So this brand new vehicle from 2019 underneath is actually really similar to a vehicle that Nissan has been selling worldwide since 2010. What is it that makes the Infiniti QX80 such a unique truck? Well, obviously it's a combination of a lot of things. The looks, what's under the hood, the interior, all the materials used in here, but I think it all really makes sense once you get behind the wheel and take it for a drive. Because you start to see that the way the suspension is tuned, the way the engine is tuned, and the way that the interior is laid out actually makes you feel kind of special. This is one of those special feeling vehicles that is really a combination of all of its unique and interesting parts. I really hope you guys like this video. Please drop a comment down below and tell me what you think of the QX80 because it is certainly an interesting truck. Also, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and give it a thumbs up if you want. And be sure to come back to TFLnow for the latest news, views, and real-world reviews just like this one. Thanks, guys.